We'll start up literally in a matter of seconds. All right, it is 12:05. Oh, there's Grant. Good afternoon, Grant. I've already started recording, so first of all, and don't get me wrong, I'm not asking for any sympathy, anything on this, but over the weekend, a guy that I worked with for several years, I just got news that he died. And I guess I took it harder than I thought I was going to. And that was the main reason. There were a couple of us that were close, and one guy really, really took it hard. And I was spent part of the day trying to help console him electronically, which is something in itself. So, but today is day 56. Today, we're going to continue review because whatever errors we had working, and we will go on too. All right. What I want to do tonight and try to get it out in the email to you tomorrow is exactly what I'll be looking for you to do with this project once you basically take it over. The plan right now is tomorrow and Friday, since we lost yesterday. I'm going to go over chapter 16. So I'll lecture on it tomorrow and we'll see where we are time-wise. If there's enough time, maybe we'll go over the exercise at the end of the chapter as well. We'll also do whatever the one was, the assigned one at the end of the chapter. And I think it was one of the earlier programs that was adding authentication and authorization to it. So we'll talk about that at that time. Again, next week, I am technically on vacation. If anybody does have questions on anything, I will be around. It's not like I'm going anywhere, but I am going to help babysit my grandson. So I'll get back to you that day, but I'm not sure if it'll be immediate. So, and finally, a week from today, I should say a week from tomorrow, and a week from Friday, there'll be no class anyway for Rankin because, as always, Rankin is closed for the Thanksgiving holiday. All right, so with that said, let's get started. Now, one thing last time that we did not do, and that is when we come in and start to add some of these repositories, all right, typically you add some code to your program.cs file to basically alert it as to what the repository is and the file that will go with it. There's different ways of doing it. I'm not going to read this. You can see it up here. All right. In the book, they talk about the add transient, and there's advantages to all of these and disadvantages to all of these. All right. I'm going to quickly, in just a moment, use the add scoped. And as it says, basically what it's doing there is it's tying a class to an interface. So as it says, it creates a new instance of the class the first time it needs to inject a dependency and then reuses that on an as needed basis. All right, so that's what we're going to use. Excuse me. So the first thing I'm going to do, I think I brought the program up and maybe I didn't. I did. Good. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over and into my program.cs file. All right. And in my program.cs file, right underneath where we just put our add DB context, we did that last time, but I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add 2 lines. Builder.services.add scoped. You have to spell it right. Turn that around the wrong way. There we go. All right. Boy, oh boy. So I added line I added line 13 and I added line 14, and I'll leave those up there for just a second. I know you probably have got them already, Grant, but just to make sure that everyone does. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that's going to fix every problem we have with this program, but it is something that we should be doing. All right. So I started with that. I believe that what we put in for our app settings.json was just fine. I know we had some problems last time going in and trying to actually create the database, but this should be okay. All right. So should be, like I said, should be no problems with that. All right. Then looking back, because what I tried to do was to go back basically and map what we have done, map that up with what I'd started working on by myself. I've got the project, I'd say about 2/3 completed right now. All right. Now, one of the things I mentioned this to you before that I'm going to ask that you do is kind of take the example that they gave in the book where the only thing they really had in models were the actual classes. And then they took view models and put it in its own folder outside of models and did the same thing with repositories, with view, etc. All right. Now I was lazy and I didn't do it, but I'm going to ask that you do that, or at least attempt to do that. I don't think that that's a big ask, to be honest with you. So when we start looking in here, we had our ball class and we had our category class. Now, eventually, we will model classes in here. What do I mean? Well, we're going to try to set this up so that we're going to have a shopping cart. All right. And to do that, at a minimum, we're going to have at least a couple more classes in here. We'll have a shopping cart class that will hold all of our shopping cart items. And we'll have a shopping cart item class, which will describe each item. All right. And we'll get to that in a little bit. So I'm looking in here. And again, I don't know if putting these in here and if putting this in here is a good idea or a bad idea. I guess we'll see as we work our way through here. All right. So every ball has an ID. Every ball has a name. Every ball has a description. Every ball has a price. Now, ideally, every ball will have both an image URL and a thumbnail URL. But on the off chance that it's either a new product or, for whatever reason, we don't have the picture available, I did not make either one of those fields. So neither one of them are required. All right. What we're going to do, hopefully at least, is we're going to be able to come in here and we've done some filtering already. All right. When I say we've done it already, I mean on other projects. You know that we've done things, even for example, like with Sports Pro, we've got it filtered so you can bring up by technician, by incident, etc. So the idea is eventually that we'll want to do some filtering in here where we can bring it up by different ball type, or we can have all balls come up. All right. But I put in this thing in here for the ball on sale. So if we want to do that, we might even be able to just bring up, for example, all the balls that are currently on sale. All right. Now the in stock, I just am going to, I've got it here set to false. Maybe it should even be set to true. But regardless, I'm setting up everything in the database so that every single one of them is going to be true. And the reason for doing that is, is it possible to make this a full-fledged e-commerce site? And the answer is yes. I just don't know if we've got the time to do that. Should we have started this earlier? Probably. All right. But if we can get this working the way I think we can get it working, hopefully at least everybody's going to be happy, with the outcome. At least, like I said, that's my hope. All right. Then we've got the foreign key and we've got the navigation property. All right. Next. So again, I'm doing this not so much for Grant, much for Jeff, but I want to make sure that everybody who's working on this sees where we are. Now, eventually, and I mentioned this to you before, I'm going to ask you to sell something. All right. And I don't want it to be food. Don't ask me why. I just don't want it to be a food product. But if you want to, you can sell virtually anything you want, a type of clothing or whatever. If you even want to use sporting goods like I have, but you don't want to sell balls, you want to sell something else, that's okay. All right. But I'm going to ask that you take ownership of this because my hope is that I'm going to get projects from all of you that will look very, very different. All right. You'll all be selling different things. You'll all have your own home pages. You can take this project kind of into any dimension, so to speak, that you want. All right. So we've got a category ID. All right. We've got a category name and a description, both of which, again, we made mandatory. All right. And we've also got a list, and that's going to be a list of all the balls. All right. Again, nothing new there. This is all stuff that before we have looked at. From there, we went in and we built a couple of repositories. Let's just start with the easier one, which is the catalog repository, and that is pretty easy. All right. So this is the first interface. By now, this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone that when you are working with an interface like this, that any class that implements this interface will have to include a get categories method. All right. And since the methods really in all of these repositories, I should say of both these interfaces, are pretty much get methods. All right, get repository or get category, get balls, get a single ball, etc. All right, so we've got this thing called get categories. We've got the category repository. So our category.cs, whoops, no, that's the wrong one. I'm sorry. Our category repository.cs. This is it right here. All right. So what are we doing in here? Again, this shouldn't be really a big surprise to anybody. We're inheriting from iCategory repository. We're doing the dependency injection here, and then actually doing the injection in here. Now, one of the things I've done is I think I told you, I've been looking at a lot of projects and stuff online, and most people do make their private variables like this read only, and they start them with an underscore. It's not at all mandatory, but that's just the way that I did it. All right. And then again, as I said, in this category repository, it's pretty simple. All right. We've got our get all categories. So we're using that ball context to ferret our way through the categories. Now, there's nothing special about this. We're not utilizing any other class. So we're not grabbing anything from anything but categories. All right. Then from there, we've got our eyeball repository. All right. And again, as you can see with this repository, again, fairly simple, but it's implementing 3 different methods. Get all balls, get balls on sale, and get ball by ID. Now, what you might wonder is, okay, I get all this. Why do you have a get all balls and a get balls on sale? Well, hopefully you notice looking at those, they look pretty similar. So the idea is, hopefully at least when we write these, we'll be able to share some of this code. All right. Now we have done some work in here with things like partial views. We've worked with underscore view imports and underscore layout and underscore view start, etc. But there's other ways that you can work and have partial views as well, where you can go and basically, oh, it's not dependency injection, but you can basically inject code into a part of your program. And that's what my hope is. All right. And again, nothing new in here, but once we look at the ball repository in just a minute, it sure as heck better implement all three methods. All right. And sure enough, when we bring it up, you can see that it does. So again, this so far, everything we've looked at in here, there really shouldn't be anything new. All right. So again, we're coming in here, read only with a ball context, setting it up in our constructor. Then we've got the get all balls. And notice with the get all balls, we're also including the category in there. All right. And for the get all balls on sale, it's the same query as the one that's above it. The only thing that's different is here we've got a where. So again, we're ferreting down some of the information that's being provided to us. All right, we only want the balls in this case that are on sale. And then finally, the get ball by ID. All right, we're using the first or default. So again, that should, if it finds a match, it should return it. Otherwise, it should be returning null. All right, now let me just go back. Like I said, I'm going back between two machines here. Not that that's a big thing, it's not. But I just want to get my bearings exactly where I am here. All right. Then next we went in and I believe we built a couple of view models. I think we did. It's been a few days, so I'm going to bring those up just in case. And we've got a ball list view model. All right. In that ball list view model, it's going to be an IEnumerable. So it's going to be basically the equivalent of a list of balls, which we are setting equal to null, and the category. So ideally, when we come in and we run this, now the way that I've set it up right now, all right, we'll look at the data in a minute, but the way that I've set it up is I had like all of my baseballs, then all of my basketballs, etc. But you have no guarantee that that's the way it's going to be. As you start adding more inventory in here, that you're always going to be doing it in some kind of a specified order. All right. So that was the ball list view. We also have a home view model. All right. And in that home view model, as you can see, all that's in there, all that's going to be in there are the balls that are on sale. All right. And you'll notice that for that one, now when we just looked at the ball list one here, these are get sets. All right. But this is also a get set because over time, again, the balls that are on sale, of course, are going to change. All right. So the other thing to look at in here, the only thing we didn't look at was the ball context. All right. And again, I started to do some stuff with identity, but I didn't finish it. So that's what we're going to be working on tomorrow. All right. But when you come in here and you look, again, there's nothing new in here as far as we've gone over all of this stuff before. Now, I did the categorization here in alphabetic order. Might not be the greatest of ideas just because of the fact that if we decide we're going to sell something new, then what am I going to do here? Am I going to renumber it or whatever? In the end, it's really not going to be that important, or at least I don't believe it's going to be that important. All right. So when you start to look in here, and because the other thing is the ball. So each ball, as it says, has an ID, has a name, has a description, has a price. Those are all mandatory. The URLs, there is one, both a ball image URL and a ball image thumbnail URL provided for each one of these. There doesn't necessarily, again, have to be, but that's the way that I've set it up. All right. And then the category ID. So again, one was baseball. So you'll see we got a 1, followed by another 1, followed by another 1, followed by another 1, then we get into the 2s. All right, so again, there shouldn't be anything new there. But again, what I am going to ask, I mentioned this before, I'm saying it again for the last time, that you separate this stuff out. And in fact, when you're doing this, all right, I'd rather have you put that into another file as we saw in an earlier chapter. All right, okay. So again, that's it pretty much as far as review. Now, we've come in and we've got in our controllers, we've got 2 controllers here. We've got a ball controller and we got a home controller. Well, let's look at the home controller first because there's not much to it. All right. So here's our home controller. All right. Again, we are bringing in a ball repository into this. All right. And we're bringing it in there, and then we're actually initializing it, and we're initializing it in the constructor. In our index, all we're doing is we're bringing up the view model, setting up the view model, basically bringing it here. And now that I look at this, well, what do we have here? We've got balls on sale. All right, we created a new home view model there. Balls on sale equal ball repository dot get balls on sale. We shouldn't just be returning a view. We should be returning here home view model. All right, and I don't think we had that in there before, but I'm putting it in there right now. Okay. All right, so that's the first one, and then let's go in and let's take a look at the ball controller, which is more extensive, more expansive than the other one is. I never have been able to understand why certain times, you know, like this file right or this using statement in here, I didn't put that in. All right. But the system has a tendency to put stuff in there. All right. And a lot of times it puts it in there. And maybe it's because I wrote the code for the first time a certain way and then changed it. I don't have any idea. I really don't. All right. But it is what it is. So this is the ball controller again, inheriting from controller. And in there, we're bringing in one of each type of repository, bringing in both an eyeball repository that we're going to call ball repository and an iCategory repository that we're calling category repository. All right. Then we are basically, again, we're setting them up here. We're injecting them here in the controller. So again, nothing really new there, but let's bring down to the methods in here where we're actually doing something. So first we've got our list method, which as it says, what we want at least is we want to be able to come in and call get all balls. All right. And I'm setting the category. We may change this or you may change this to just best sellers. I don't know. I just threw something in there. All right. And then we're returning that same ball list view model that we set there. We're returning it in the view. All right. Now, is there more that has to be put in here? And the answer is actually, yes, there is. All right. So I'm looking at that right now and I'm trying to think as to whether or not that's written the way that I want it to be written. All right. I want it to be an I-action result. Yeah, etc. I want all that stuff that's shown in there. But at least eventually what's going to happen is there's going to be some big rewrite that's going to be done in here. All right. So what I'm going to do right now, all right, is I'm going to save this. And I want to see if we fixed any of the errors that we had before. It looks like it runs there okay, that we don't have any errors. But when we tried doing this before, let's see. All right. I don't remember, like I said, it's been a while. So let me put in ball list. Right. I don't remember if we created the database or not. So I'm going to go back and take a look. It looks like there's going to be a problem here, which is totally fine. So let's go back to here and let's see if we actually created the database. All right. It would be called ball DB and there isn't one. I've got a balls, but I don't have a balls. I think that's what it was balls DB right there. So I'm going to come in and see if I can create that now, or if I'm going to still get an error. And if I do, what kind of error I get. So I'm going to come in to the NuGet package manager and the package manager console, clear that, do an add migration. All right, we don't even have anything in there right now, so I can call that my initial setup. We'll see if it works or not. Now, usually when you get things like this and you get the yellow code in here like this, they're giving you warnings. And quite often it's a scaling warning. And what I mean is they're letting you know that there is a chance, because I didn't use this, there's a has precision and some other stuff, that there could be a problem. Now, that may not sound like a big thing, but it can be. All right. At the school that I used to work at, I'll tell you a very quick story. You probably don't care, but I'm going to tell you it anyway. And that is, what we used to do there was we taught more languages than are taught here at Rankin. And in one of the classes, I didn't teach it, but when one of the classes that another instructor taught, you had to write a loan amortization problem. All right. And you could do it in any language that you knew. All right. Over time, people were doing it more and more in things like Excel because it was fairly simple. All right. Well, this guy, he taught a very much an older language called COBOL, Common Business Oriented Language. It's a language that's, but say much, I mean, but at last count I heard there was 6 or 7 trillion lines of it out there. All right. And like, for example, almost all code for insurance companies, almost all legacy code was written in COBOL. Well, so what does this have to do with anything? He would do his loan amortization program in COBOL. And he would always, so if you took out a loan for $250,000 over 20 years at 8% interest, he would be correct down to the penny. All right. I taught the C programming language, and most of my students did it in C. All right. Probably the programs my students created were about half the size of the ones his created, but typically mine would be off by 3 or 4 cents. And again, they may not sound like a big thing, but over time that can be. So getting back to this, as it says, no store type was specified. We could have gone in and set it up a little better to make sure it was exactly what we wanted it to be. I don't think it's going to have any bearing on what we're doing in here at all. All right, so let me clear that and let me try to do an update database and see if this works. All right, everything looks good right now. As always, let's go in and just verify it. Whoops, go in and verify it. Try that again. Get rid of this up method here and the app setting.json as well. All right, I'm going to refresh here, go back. We should have now a balls DB. We do. If I go to tables, all right, we've got the balls table and the categories table. If I quickly take a look in there and I look at the data, should have 6 categories or 7, whatever it is. There they are. And when I go in from the balls themselves and view the data, there that is. Again, they're going to look a little funky because we've got the paths here to the images. All right. But, it doesn't look too bad. Let's put it that way. All right. And you can see again that right now it really is in order if we go by category ID. All right, so like I said, nothing new there, but the good news is we did get this to work. And I think I had a build problem with it last time. And I don't know if the changes we put in thus far fix that or not, but the good news is we've got all that stuff in there. All right, so let me close these and we'll continue on. All right, so what I'm going to do is in this list, I'm going to rewrite this right now. And we'll see if this helps, hurts, or whatever. All right. But before I do, what I want to do now is, now that we've got data, I want to go in there and run this. Now, right now, okay, we have to literally, because we've got no links up here for balls, etc., but I should be able to do a slash ball slash list. All right, and there's what we have right now. Hopefully when you did yours, it looks similar to that. Now, if you look on here, I've done nothing as far as prettying this up. All right. And to be honest with you, I don't want to do a lot to pretty it up. And what am I talking about? I want you to do it. I want you to come in and change this any way you want to change it. Change the product, change the write-up, etc. I want this to be yours. Now, there's a couple in here. You can see this is one where I tried to make all of the images the same size, and by doing it, there was a little distortion in that one. I thought there was one other one that was distorted too, but maybe I'm wrong. All right. So we've got that. Now, what we want to be able to do, though, is we also want to be able to, these are the thumbnail sketches, all right? But in just a couple minutes here, what we want to be able to do is when this comes up like this, all right, I want each one of these that you see in here to be hyperlinked, all right? And as we hyperlink them, if you click on it, then what I want it to do is rather than bring up this, I want it to bring up the big picture of it. And for now, all we're going to do is basically replicate most of the stuff that we have in here, but we'll have a bigger picture. And again, when you create yours, you'll be able to set it up any way that you want to set it up. All right. So far, this is actually working pretty well. All right. Now I want to make some changes in here, but just in case my changes blow up, because I'm sick and tired of that happening, I'm going to highlight every bit of this and I'm going to go up and comment it out. All right. I know that it works right now. All right. And I'm getting that error, of course, because I removed all the code that I had in here. But I want to come back in and I want to rewrite this. All right. And for the details one, that one actually looks okay. That's all that's in there. There's not much in there. All right. You know, there is a built-in constant for not found. I didn't put that in, but we're either going to get back, hopefully, our view of the ball. All right. Or, all right, in fact, I'm going to try this just for the heck of it. Give me a second here. Let me uncomment this. I'm gonna comment it back out in just a second. Whoops. I will comment it back out in just a moment. But I'm going to uncomment this. I'm going to save this again. I want to run it one more time. You already know it works because you saw it. So we came in here, we did a slash ball slash list. But I'm going to put in here /1, and I'm going to see, oh, that is right now is not implementing correctly. All right, I want that to give me, in fact, it should give me not slash list. It should be slash details /1. All right, that's what I want. Okay. And you'll notice we've even got an add to cart there because we're going to start to implement all this. All right. It isn't found yet because we haven't put the page in, but that's what we want. So we want to be able to make sure. So right now, everything works. All right. So you might say, okay, everything works, then why are you changing it? I'm trying to see if I can make it work a little stouter or a little better. I'm going to put more information in here. And just to be sure everything works the way I want it to, now I am going to come in and literally comment all of this out and try to write the updated version of it right here. All right. So this is my ball controller. All right. And this is my list method of my ball controller. Good. Good. Well, I'm trying to figure out, I wrote this before and it worked, and now I'm getting an error. Well, I'll tell you what, just because I'm tired of wasting your time. So I'll go back and check that on my own. Let's uncomment this back out again. We know that it does work. All right. It does work, but for lack of better words, I want it to work better. All right. So what we've done in here, I believe, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's about what we got up to the other day. At least I think that it's about where we got up to. So we didn't really do anything. For example, I don't think we did, at least. We didn't do anything with any of the views. All right. But I'm going to look to be sure. So I'm going to start by going in and, the one you typically start with, and that would be your view layout file right here. Now, we may have looked at this before. I don't know. All right. And you already saw that it did work. All right. In other words, when you look in here, all right, we had our index and we had our home controller, but we've got some stuff that we can put in here now that wasn't working before, such as we've got home and privacy. Well, we're not using privacy, so let's change that one. And instead of home, let's put ball in there. And instead of privacy, let's put list in there. We can put anything you want, show all balls or whatever you want. All right. But to me, at least, that would make some sense to put that in. Now, can we put in other ones? Yeah. But typically, I think that we want to get to an individual ball by going through our list of balls first. All right. And the reason for that is eventually in here where we've got show all balls. All right. I'd like us to have a drop down, and I'd like that drop down to basically more or less be like the list group that we've had in the past. But I'd like to do a simple drop down list from a menu where we could, for example, choose baseball, basketball, golf ball, etc., and then just ferret it down to that. All right. But with that in there, let me come in here and do a file, save all, and let's run it again. And now we've got show all balls. And there we got it. All right. Again, it's not that big a thing. And I mean, sometimes people go nuts. It's like, but these should all be one word or whatever. I don't think that's really that important or at all. All right. I will expect when you do yours, I am purposely not doing anything in here with color or anything. I'm not doing any real designing per se. All right. But I will expect you to. Okay. How? Any way you want. We've done a little bit of that stuff, for example. We've done a little bit of that in the Sports Pro, even something as simple as, taking the menu up here and giving it a background. I could do that right now, and we can. All right. And we should be able to go here and go home or go here and go home. All right, that works. But to me, a real big thing about this is in this class, really so far, there's been a lot of work that we've done together. There's been a certain amount of work that you've done yourselves. All right. But you've never really been asked to kind of go out on your own and design something. That's what I'm asking you to do here. And my hope is one or more of you are going to come up with something that you want to sell that's going to be kind of unique, whatever that is. I'm not going to give you ideas. All right. But, hopefully there's something that you would have an interest in. Also, I think I mentioned this to you before, and Grant, sorry, I always have to pick on you, but you make it easy. Am I right that when you took the class with Evan last summer that you guys had to each make a presentation about what you did for your project. Is that correct?
Yes, we made a PowerPoint and then did a demonstration of
Okay. And
our project.
I'm going to ask you to do something similar. Everybody. With the people in this class, there's 6 of you. 4 of you have done that already. 2 of you have not done that already. So we'll talk about that before the time comes. All right. I mean, if you need help, you don't even have to use Microsoft PowerPoint. Google's got, if you go out, I think it's Google Slides, but you can go out and use those. You can go out and anybody can go out and start doing stuff on YouTube really at any time. All right. There might be a few things that you have to go through. All right. But there's not really a whole heck of a lot, to be honest with you. But that's going to be part of your grade on this is going to be, what did you pick? How did you design it? How did you present it? And I realized, let me just very quickly tell you that when I was teaching this class in the classroom, before we moved over to ASP.NET, we were teaching in here Java, and what we were having students do is you were building apps, and you would have to build your own app from scratch in that class. All right, literally from scratch. We did that a couple times ourselves, but you had to you had to design it, you had to come up with the idea, you had to do everything, and then you had to submit it to the Google Play Store. All right, and show that it had at least been submitted. All right, so what does this have to do with anything? The last day of class, the last day we were scheduled, I had Mr. Corrigan come in, and I had a few other people come in, and I had a couple people I knew from business and industry. They came in, and I had 2 recruiters. They came in, all right, and they watched the presentation. And, it's funny because I am actually a very, very, I think at least, very introverted person. I have no idea if I come across like that or not. It doesn't matter. But I had a lot of people who told me because that presentation had to be a minimum of 10 minutes and a maximum of 20. And I had people telling me that was the longest 10 to 20 minutes of their lives. All right. The good news is having you do it like this, if you go and tape it and you think, oh my God, that's terrible, you just don't use that one and you tape it again. All right. Okay. So with all that said, let's just continue on then. So I'm looking in here, and I don't really want to do a heck of a lot more, I don't think, inside of here. Again, this is our main page, so to speak. All right, it's our underscore layout page. All right, and again, as I mentioned, we could go in and we could put a bunch of stuff in here, whatever we wanted to put in here, we could come in and put in. All right. So if you decide as an example that you don't like the way that this is set up at all right, that go ahead and change it any way you would like. All right. I will probably make some changes as we go on in here, but we'll see. All right. But again, just typical stock as far as what's in here. There's a header. All right. A body, and a footer. And if you don't want one of those, we've got this footer in here, you don't want that, etc. Well, this privacy action, I'm just going to totally get rid of that because we don't have privacy in there anymore. But still have that. Okay. Now that goes back to the home. Do I even need that? All right. No, I can remove that. All right. And I've got, div class equal container. And well, what else do I want to do? Class equal container. Text center, maybe. Font weight bold, maybe, etc. So if you want to put, you want to put some stuff in there, go ahead. Make this, I want this to be your own. Again, I want this to be a reflection of you, for lack of better words. All right, let me stop that. Run it one more time just because I want to make sure I'm not breaking anything. And now we've changed it down there. I could have even made ball store 2 words. No biggie. All right. So what else do we have in here? Well, you all know this already, but when we start looking at this, as far as views go, we're going to do some work with it right now. All right. And what do I mean? All right. Well, we've got a ball controller with list and with details, right? And we've got a home controller with an index. So at a minimum, I guess we should come in here and take a look at the views for the ball controller and for the home controller. All right, so I'm going to bring that one up first. And you already know, this is the one you're going to be redoing. All right, this is about, I mean, let's face it, about as ugly as it gets. All right, so I'm going to just make a couple of changes here. Welcome to the ball store. All right, and again, anything you want. All right, I don't like this. Learn more about building apps. All right, I think that's kind of silly. So let's see. I'll come in here and I'm going to say, come check out even more at, all right, and I'm making this up. It won't go anywhere really. But it'll look maybe a little nicer. All right, that's no biggie. So file, save all. And let's come in and look at the other ones. So we've got details here and we've got our list here. Okay. All right. We may have gone over this before. I honestly and truly don't remember if we did or not. But regardless, like I said, I'm trying to be complete here. It's been a few days since we actually went in and looked at this stuff. And so, as mentioned, I'm trying to make sure that we're kind of all on the same page, so to speak. All right. So if you look in here right now, okay, this is details. And let's go into list first. So this is the one that comes up by default. All right. So notice it's of type ball list view model. All right. I've got the model, the current category up there. Okay. And then we've got a for each loop. And all we're doing in here is we're looping through our inventory. And for each one, we are showing what? We are showing the image thumbnail. All right. And then in a caption thing here, we're showing the price, we're showing the ball name, and we're showing the ball description. Now, some of this stuff has not been working correctly for me. And I noticed, for example, I even went and looked, and when we've done this before where we've had like a pull right or an MT type of thing where we move something to the right, mine doesn't always work. I don't know why. I don't really care. All right. I'm not grading mine. I'm grading yours. So again, when you have your details page, you can put on it anything you want to put on it. All right. And again, that should make sense to everybody. Okay. And finally, then in the details page, same thing. All right. Now you'll notice we've got this add to cart. All right. So notice where it's going. It's going to a controller, and that controller is called shopping cart. And that controller will have an action that's called add to shopping cart. And that action or method will require a ball ID. All right. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to come in and start building a shopping cart. And again, hopefully at least, that makes some sense. All right. And as I mentioned to you earlier, all right, what this will necessitate, amongst other things, what this will eventually necessitate is us going in and creating some other stuff that we don't currently have. All right. We don't have right now, we don't have a shopping cart controller. All right. Well, then we better create a shopping cart controller. All right. And we're going to come in and we're going to take a look at that. It's a little bit earlier than I thought it was going to be, but what I want to do is I want to give us 15 minutes right now. I've got to move a couple files around. I did not know how long this would take. So let's come back, please, at 10 after 1. And when we do, we're going to start looking at how we're going to add to this. All right, so I will see you in 15 minutes. All right, let's get started back up. Am I right in assuming that right now you can see my screen and it's my program screen here? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into models, and this is supposed to be a shopping cart. So let's start to try to implement some of the shopping cart philosophy into this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in and add two classes. The first one will be our typical kind of class, and the second one will be more filled with logic, for lack of better words. So I'm going to come over here to models. I'm going to right mouse click and choose add class. And we're going to call this class shopping cart item. So there it is. All right. Now, and this will be basically each item that we put into the shopping cart, what will it have to have? And there's 4 pieces of information that it'll have to have. All right. First, will be the primary key, shopping cart item ID. All right. We'll also need to know what, all right. And then the information, so we can pull in the information about the ball. All right. I'm not going to worry in here about setting anything here, of course. But for this, let's come in. I think that if we put a question mark in here and we say that it's equal to null, and in here, let's just set that equal to 0.0. 0, I should say. Now, a couple things about this. All right. What this is going to necessitate in just a little bit, what this is going to necessitate is us basically being able to come in here and start to work with sessions. Now, we did some work with sessions, but let's face it, not much. All right. And much of the stuff that we did in with sessions was kind of boilerplate. We took it out of the book, or we just did some standard stuff. We're going to go a little further than that here. All right. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. This is one of the times where I got this in here. I set it all up. All right. And I've even set up orders. Now, I've had some success with it, and I've had some problems getting some of the stuff to actually show on screen. We'll see where we get to today. All right. So this is the first thing. Again, this was our shopping cart item. So each item that we put into a shopping cart must be associated with an actual shopping cart itself. Now that's a string because what's basically going to happen for that shopping cart ID is it's going to be the equivalent of a session ID. And a session ID is letters, numbers, etc. All right. And that's why we've got that. All right, the ball, why we have that should just make sense because we need that information. All right, and the amount is going to be how many did we buy? All right, that's what it is. It's not anything about cost because cost is going to have to be calculated every time. Because if a ball is $29.95, how many did we buy? If we bought 3 of them, it's $29.95 times 3, etc. So this is everything in here for our shopping cart item. All right, so I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to come back in and I'm going to add yet another class in here. And this will be shopping cart.cs. All right, and again, this, you get it, I'm sure. Shopping cart items go into a shopping cart. All right, but again, this one, more than anything else, this is just going to be a lot of logic that's in here. All right, and it's fairly long. It's about 100 lines. So let's just take our time and put it all in here. First, since we're working with a database, as always, we'll have to come in and do our injection. So private read only, and I've been, it's a type ball context, and I've been calling it underscore ball context. All right, whoops. All right, nothing new there. Okay. All right, the shopping cart ID. So what we are putting in there is what? All right, that will actually be our shopping cart ID. All right, and each shopping cart will have in it a list of shopping cart items. So I'm going to put in here public list of what? Of type shopping cart item. Of course, I did that wrong. Let's redo that. List of shopping cart item. Call it anything, but I'm putting a lot in here because I want this program to be a little bit more self-documenting. All right. And again, we can come in here. This is a string, so we can put the question mark here to make that go away. This is a list. I don't know if you put it here or not, but try it. No, doesn't like that. I don't want to sit and play around with it, but we could work on that too. All right. All right. So the next thing we want to do is we want to put in our constructor, and was watching this guy do a lecture online, and I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you, but as an example, if you come in here and you type in right now, what is it? Tab? No, it isn't. Um, if I want to create a constructor for what I'm working on right now, I can just type in, this, public, shopping cart, etc. Or I can type in CTOR, which is a shortcut, hit tab, and have it make that for me. Now, to some people, these shopping carts are the greatest thing ever. I don't think they're great. I don't think they're bad. All right. But it's there if you ever want it. So let's see. This will be again, our ball context. And this will be ball context. Right. And in here, we will have underscore ball context equal ball context. Nothing new there. All right, so we injected that in. I don't think there's been a lot in here so far, hopefully, that has surprised anybody. All right, so what are we going to have to do in here? Well, we'll have to be able to get our shopping cart, okay? We'll have to be able to add to a shopping cart. We'll have to be able to remove from a shopping cart. We'll have to be able to get all of our shopping cart items. We'll have to be able to clear our shopping cart. And finally, we're going to have to be able to get our shopping cart total. Now, we're going to put this in the order I did it. We may get an error in here. And if we do, we're going to have to go back into our program.cs file and add yet another entry. I'm not worried about it. We'll get it to work. All right. So first thing we're going to put in here is this get cart. All right. And with this service provider, this is what we're going to basically be doing. Let me just tell you, we want to start up a session. All right. And when we start up that session, we want the system to basically create for us a cart ID. How are we going to do that? All right. We're going to call a built-in function that exists in C# that's called GUID, G-U-I-D. You may have heard of that, you may not have, but it basically creates a random ID number for us with several letters in it. The chances of us doing this and putting in 50 or 100 or whatever records we're going to put in here and getting a duplicate are literally just about null. That's not going to happen. So Move this over just a little bit. All right, it's giving me an error right now, so let's see if we can figure out why. All right, it's telling me to add an explicit cast, which I should not have to do. session equals services dot get. That's because this is wrong. I'll fix it. All right, get required services, and that should be HTTP context accessor. All right, now that's a little hard to read. Let me move this over so you can take a look at it. Now, my guess is, yeah, I'm going to say we're going to get a warning here that says that it might not be null. So I think if we put the question mark here, yeah, that'll go away. All right. Now, what we're going to be working on in here, okay, is we're going to be using question marks and we're going to be using double question marks in just a second. All right. And basically what we're saying in here is if this works, all right, take this and assign it to that. All right. Now, when we put in the double question mark, what the main difference is, it's going to say, hey, take this and assign it. And if you can't, assign null. All right. And again, if that doesn't make sense, just kind of bear with me for a little bit and hopefully it will fairly soon. What doesn't like? There is a using statement, it looks like in here. All right. Using Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.HTTP. That got rid of some of it. So let's look at the rest here. Well, this is goofed up. We got that. Here we go. And again, we can play around in here. Okay, I don't know if it wants a question mark there. All right, but there's going to be, we could get rid of all this stuff. I'm just going to keep the one warning that's there. So again, this is saying what we're attempting to do is to take and grab ourselves a brand new GUID, which is again going to be the equivalent of a large string, and we're going to use that to set the card ID. All right, so for lack of better words, that is going to be our session ID. All right. Yeah. Now, sometimes people find this confusing when you've got just one line like this and you put it like this. So if it makes more sense to you, drop it off or put it over multiple lines. Okay, so we're returning a new shopping cart, and basically in here, what we're setting up is we're saying that that new shopping cart is going to have that ID. I don't know any other way to say it. I'm not saying, does that totally make sense or does it not make sense? Hopefully, as we go on, this will make more and more sense. So what we're doing right here is we're saying before we can instantiate a new shopping cart, which is what we're returning, we have to have an ID that we can associate with that. And the reason for that is we want the session state in here. All right, we want our state to be maintained. So we want to be able to buy a ball and then maybe continue shopping and come back and buy another ball, for example. All right, that kind of thing. And like I said, hopefully with what we're going through here is making at least some sense. All right, so that's our get cart. All right, now we're going to have an add to cart. And what are we going to try to add to cart? Well, we'll need the ball and we'll need that amount that we talked about before. All right. So again, what is this? Well, this is just literally just an add to cart. All right. It's going to be a little longer method, but the point is either we can add something to a cart or we can't. Right. All right. So we're going to attempt to do this here. All right. Now we're going to write ourselves probably either the longest Lambda we've ever written, or it's got to be in the team picture. So right now we're going to write something that's pretty long. I'm going to separate it out over multiple lines. When I did it on my screen, I put it on 2 lines and I made the screen real small, but I don't want to make it that small for you. And I want to be able to explain what's going on in here. So like I said, I'm going to put it over multiple lines here. So why are you giving me that? Boy, son of a gun. Let's look at this. Dot. Oh, good gravy. Something is missing there. Okay, okay. Okay. Got shopping cart items right here. It's right there. Why is it not finding that? Oh, golly. trying to figure out where my error is and I don't see it. Public list. Don't you recognize that? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to write the other methods in here, and then we'll see where we are for time. And I'm going to see if I don't need to generate anything. I shouldn't have to. So I'm going to keep going, but we will get this because we're not going to be able to keep going and get this to work otherwise. So. All right. All right. If right now shopping cart item is null, what that means is this is not this is a new shopping cart. In other words, we're not adding items to an existing order. We're creating a new order. All right. So, I think I'm going to get the same error right here. Doggone it. Oh. All right. So if the shopping cart is null, okay, we're basically creating a new shopping cart item and then we're going to add it. Otherwise, all right. So think about it this way. Let's say that I bought a basketball. All right, whatever ball. There's a pink one in there. It's called pink basketball. So I bought a pink basketball. Now I decide I want to buy another one. All right. So what I want to do here in the else is I want to say shopping cart item dot amount. All right. Plus, because I just bought another one. All right. So here I'm putting a new item into a cart. Here I'm adding to an existing item that's already in the cart. All right. So again, one more time, either I'm coming in here and I'm attempting to add a new item into my shopping cart. So when it says new shopping cart item, it's going to check. So for instance, let's say I don't have any baseballs in there and I go in to add a baseball. All right. It will be a new shopping cart item. All right. So it's going to basically grab the ball information and the amount. All right. But if I get down to here, that ball was already in my shopping cart. So instead of buying one of them, for example, I want to buy two of them. So I'm telling it to increase the order. We'll eventually have a way in here where we can increase and especially decrease the order of the amount of the number we're buying. Now that's it for this one. Again, I got to figure out what the darn error is in here, and we will. All right. So I just want to keep going here and write the next one. So the next one is going to be remove from cart. All right. And again, that should make sense. We've got an item. No, we don't want that item. Okay. And I keep coming up with the same error right here whenever I want to go in shopping cart item. All right.
Hey, Mr. Scott,
Yeah.
my IntelliSense just kicked in and it just didn't have underscore ball context before shopping cart items, and it's not coming up with errors, and it's all the
You
IntelliSense is kicking
you
in.
remove this.
Yes. I just tried it with the add to cart
Right.
one, and it
Oh,
also didn't work.
yeah, I understand what you're saying. And yeah, I guess it won't give you an error. However,
Okay.
I've got a feeling when we try to work with it later, it will give you an error. See what I'm
Okay.
saying?
Yeah.
So we can try that. Right. And I'll leave it like that for now, and thanks for checking on that. But I think it's going to come back and bite us later, but we'll see. Maybe that was correct. But I am looking at my code, which did work when I ran it. The way I did it. So that's fine. We don't want to check if it's null, check if it's not null. All right, what does that mean? Well, if it's not null, there's something to remove, right? That should make sense. Now, if there's more than one, okay, if there's more than one, so let's say we got 3 items, what we want is just to set it to 2. However, if it's at 1 right now, we want to remove it completely. I want to say that again. So this is removed from cart. Let's imagine that I bought 4 basketballs. All right, now what's going to eventually happen is we're going to have a hyperlink there that's going to say decrease amount. So we click that, now we've got 3 basketballs. We don't want 3, so we click it again, we've got 2. We click it again, we've got 1. That all works fine. All we're doing is decrementing a counter. If we do it again, we don't really want there to be an order with a 0 out there. No, what we want to do is literally remove the item, period. All right. So we're going to come in here, we're going to do all this, but before we do this, let's come in and let's add a local variable right here. All right. And don't worry, that error is going to go away in a second. In fact, let's just set it equal to 0. All right. And what that's going to be is we want to make sure that if, for example, we do remove 1, so if we had 4 and we removed 1, we want to make sure that what we're returning is 3. If it's empty and we don't do anything with this, we're just returning 0 and it won't hurt anything. So if it's not null, we want to say shopping cart item dot amount. So that's how many we had in there, minus minus. And the local amount is equal now to the shopping cart item amount. All right. Otherwise, again, it's empty. We don't have anything else to remove. There was 1 and we said to remove that. So else, well, again, I would have put here underscore ball context, but let's try it without that. And I will, by next class, go in and check and see if I can figure out what the heck's going on with this. Okay, so that is, okay, so this was an if, and that's an else. Hold on. If the shopping cart is not null, no, what we want to do here is do another if. If, I apologize, if the shopping cart item is greater than 1. So I gave you the right logic. I just didn't put the code in here correctly. So that code comes into here. All right. Then else. All right. So let's play computer here. All right. There's something to be removed from the shopping cart. So that item has 1 or more of it associated with it. If we have more than 1 item, all we have to do is decrement it. So if we had 2 items, we decrement it and now it's 1. Okay. But if we get down to here, we only had 1 item. So what we want to do in that case is remove it from our cart. All right. And either we want to save our changes. All right. But what we want to return then is the local amount. All right. So we're either going to be returning 1 less than we had in there, or we're going to be returning 0. All right. And my hope is that at least makes some sense. Where I believe we're going to have the problems removing that underscore ball context here is I don't think it's going to be saving it, because we're not changing it. We're grabbing it there, but we're not physically changing it in the database, I don't believe. I mean, I appreciate you looking at that, and I'll have to figure out what the heck the problem is. But hopefully we can. All right. So we just did remove from cart. All right. So next, let's get our shopping cart items. Okay. I'm going to move this over because it's going to go right off the screen otherwise. Hmm. Again, I think we're going to have to remove that to get this to work without the dot as well. It still doesn't like some, oh, because I got two dots here. See now, look, it's not finding the include, and I think it's not finding the include or to put the underscore all context in here. Dot doesn't find that, but it finds it's the include. That's why I said I think we're going to need that. Boy, I wish I knew what the problem was, and I wish I knew why it worked the first time. All right. Let's just finish this up. There's two more and they're short. This will do just that. It will attempt to clear the shopping cart. And again, same darn thing. There in the card here. All right, there's one more here. And this is where we will get the total of all of our shopping cart items. Now, the problem is exactly what you see. All right. It doesn't like this paired with this. So I'll have to figure out why. That is my job for tomorrow. But because I'd like us to go on and get at least a little bit farther in here. All right. And what I would like us to do is two things. All right. First of all, we're going to come in and write a shopping cart controller. All right. But before we do, let's go program.cs file and check for a few things in here. All right. Is it possible this could fix some of our problems? Anything's possible. All right. So we've got our builder services here. We put that one in, we put that one in. All right. We're going to add another one in here right now, and not today, but hopefully tomorrow we'll add yet one more so we can start worrying about orders that we're giving for people. So we just added this right here. Let me double check, and I don't think I typed in anything wrong. So builder.services.add scoped shopping cart, SC for shopping cart, shopping cart.get cart SC. All right. Now, a couple more things that we're going to add in here. I don't know. I really am right here to my knowledge. So services.add HTTP context builder.services.add HTTP context accessor builder.services.add session. And finally, builder. I don't know if we need that. I don't think we need that last one. I was going to add some razor pages, but I think we've already got that in here. So go in and add these 3 lines right here. All right. After you've got those, where we've got all this app dot whatever in here, we've got an app.https redirection, a use static files. After that one, let's add in here an app.use session. All right, right here. We've already got an app.use routing, but before we put the authorization in here, I don't think we're going to need this, but I'm going to put it in for now anyway. And that is to use authentication. So we came in here and we added this and these 2. Those we're not going to use right now, but eventually, when we come in and add the authorization and the authentication, we'll need those. All right. What's kind of cool about this is the way that we're going to do that with the authentication, et cetera, and the authorization is the stuff that we need will be, all of it will be added for us. The tables will be created. The tables will be built for us. We only have to tell the system what tables we want it to add because there'll be a big list of them. All right, we'll only pull out a few of them and have them be added for us. All right. The other thing I'd like to do then is to write the shopping cart controller. All right. And until I finish this other stuff and get that to work, there's no sense in going on after that, but we can write that. So let's go into controllers. So right now, a controller and a home controller. Let's go in and add another controller. MVC controller empty, and this will be shopping cart controller. .cs, there it is. So let's start filling this up. As always, as we come in here, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a couple read-only variables. No, not cart. hopefully that stuff by now is fairly easy to understand. All right, so we've got that. Let's put in our index, and then we will have in here an add shopping cart, which will have a redirect to action and a remove shopping cart. This is the entire cart. So we're not talking about items like we were working with before, but we're talking about either creating a brand new shopping cart or removing a shopping cart because it has nothing in it. All right, so let's come back into here. And I'll leave that there, but we'll add some stuff to it later. So. I'm gonna need a new view model, which I don't think we made yet, so we'll make that in a minute. Now we're getting that error because, again, as of right now, we do not have a shopping cart view model. So let's go into our models, and in our models, all right, we'll have the view model, make a shopping cart. So let's go into view models. Let's add a new class. It'll be called shopping cart view model. .cs. I got only 2 fields in it. This is why we were getting that error before, one of the reasons. All right, and again, I believe we can initialize that to 0.0m and just put a question mark there. All right, so that's the shopping cart view model. Now, if we go back to our shopping cart controller, it probably needs a using statement. Yes, it does. So we need that using allstore.models.view models. If you get an error, just click the underscore and it'll fix it. So that's the index, and the index in our the index shopping cart controller is now done. All right. And we're going to need the other ones now. So let's come in and write those. right, I'll give you a second to finish up on that one. Well, then we'll write the other two, which is the remove from shopping cart and clear cart. All right. And I'm not going to go on because it doesn't pay to go on after that since I'm getting errors. Now, this is going to be very similar, except instead of adding it to the cart, I'm going to want to be removing it from the cart. So what I'm going to do is just copy all this, paste it in. It's going to give me errors, but we'll fix them right away. So this will be remove from shopping cart. All right. Oh, okay, no errors there and none there. I'm missing a curly somehow, so that was that error. And then we've got our clear cart, which is only 3 lines long. There you go. So let's see. So what we're doing in here, and hopefully you noticed it with calling clear cart and calling add to cart and calling remove from cart, we are calling the methods that we put into the shopping cart class that's in our models folder. All right. The good news is, and if you need me to show you any more of it, I can, but there's no errors in this file. So this shopping cart controller right now, to my knowledge, is error free. I have to fix the other ones because, like I said, there's no sense in going on when we have errors like that. All right. So there's 2 more basic operations we want to get after we finish this. All right. We're setting up our shopping cart. And of course, once I get those to work, we'll have to create the views as well. That's fine. But then after that, there's 2 operations. Number 1 is, all right, let people make orders. Because if you've got a shopping cart, but people can't order things, they have nothing to put, they don't have the ability to order. They don't have the ability to put anything in the shopping cart. So we'll need to do that. And hopefully we can go through that tomorrow. And then we will need to add the administrative function. I'm not going to do that tomorrow because I want us to instead go over chapter 16 starting tomorrow after we get done with that part. And then the only thing we'd have left to do on this after the break would be to add that component in to do authentication and authorization. Hopefully what I just said made sense. Now, I'm not going to run it because, as you know, if I ran it right now, I'd get errors up the wazoo. All right, I have no idea how many errors I get, but there'd be quite a few of them. All right. Now, there's actually more than 4 errors. And the reason that there's actually more than 4 errors is because we removed that underscore ball context from some of the lines of code. All right, if I put all those back in, we'd have even more errors than those. All right, so what I'm going to do in just a few minutes is I'm going to go back and I'm going to look and try to see if I can figure out what the heck the problem is, set it up for tomorrow so we'll be able to try to set up orders if we can get all that stuff working. And I know that's a big if. Then the only thing then left to implement would be the authorization and authentication. If we can do all that and there's any time left tomorrow, we'll jump right into chapter 16. Because what I want to do is I want to go through chapter 16, and I want us to, at a minimum by the end of the week, have gone through chapter 16 and looked at 16.1 that's at the end of chapter 16. Now, I know with those, you've actually got the answers, but it's one thing to actually just have the answer. It's another thing to go through it so that you can figure out what indeed the. All right. Okay. If I'm giving you an if right now, but if for some reason I cannot figure this out, I'm hoping that doesn't happen. But if for some reason I cannot figure that out, then tomorrow we'll jump right into chapter 16. Right. I don't want to do that. I wanted us to get this far. And I wanted us by really today, I was hoping we would do the order component also in there. It's not that hard because we've done stuff like that before. And we'll set up a form where a person will enter in their first name, last name, address, city, state, zip, etc. And we'll run a validator summary on all for that too. All right, but that'll necessitate us going in and adding an order class as well. So like I said, I'm going to go right now and take a look and see if I can figure out what the problem is. I apologize for not being able to figure out what it is, but it is what it is. All right. So I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a look at it yourself if you get time. And I've got an email from one of you, you know who you are, who told me that they have actually been doing a lot of rewriting of stuff on their own, and they figured out a new way to rewrite part of it. I haven't looked at it yet, but I will try to look at that as soon as possible. All right. So with that, all right, a little earlier than I hoped it was going to be, but I will see you tomorrow. Oh, and tomorrow is Thursday, but it's the third Thursday of the month. So we have our staff meeting. All right. So we start up tomorrow at 1 p.m. All right. Because again, we have our staff meeting from 12. Usually it ends at 12:45, but sometimes it runs over. That's why I want to give it a little extra time. Okay. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good day.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.